The ruling by the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals limits when officers can use their tasers. The ruling affects these 5 states, including South Carolina. Now, what was legal earlier this year is now off limits, and law enforcement is scrambling to change their policies. But does this make an officer's job even more dangerous? Electricity or a bullet? In a choice between the two, most would go for a quick shock, because that won't kill you, right? For a North Carolina man, it didn't work out that way.
They had him on the ground on his face down, handcuffed him, and that's when his sister noticed that he wasn't breathing.
Karani Truzzi represented the estate of Ronald Armstrong, a 40-plus-year-old man who was diagnosed as bipolar and schizophrenic. Armstrong wrapped himself around a pole on hospital property, where he was about to voluntarily commit himself, but then he changed his mind and refused to go inside. While deputies waited for a commitment order from the court, they talked to him.
Why? I just want to talk to you. Why? Because I want to tell you what's going to happen.
This is video of that encounter. As soon as the commitment order came through, things escalated.
Within 30 seconds of receiving the order, they began to tase him. As a matter of fact, Lieutenant McDonald is heard over the mic pack recording, actually saying when the order came in, you know, he's not going to go in, let's just tase him.
No, she got tased. I'll see.
Court records show at the time Armstrong wasn't acting normally. Instead, he was eating grass and dandelions, chewing on a gauze-like substance, and putting cigarettes out on his tongue. Still, Pinehurst police officers tased him multiple times.
That type of force against someone who's mentally ill, who's not resisting, and if they are considered to be resisting, is passive at best. That level of force should not have been used.
Courts ruled tasing Armstrong 5 separate times over the course of 2 minutes was excessive force.
Instead of receiving the help that he needed, he was killed in the process.
So now 3 simple words are changing the game on taser use: immediate safety risk. What is immediate safety risk?
Immediate safety risk, if somebody's life was in danger, or if they're being assaulted.
So just resisting arrest is not enough?
Right now, resisting arrest can be determined in several different ways. It all depends on what actually the subject's doing during the resistance.
Jason Ramey is a taser instructor for North Augusta Public Safety. When the ruling came down in January, the department got this memo to make changes immediately.
Well, it obviously changes things for us, how and when we use a taser.
The court decided deploying a taser is a serious use of force designed to cause excruciating pain, and physical resistance is not synonymous with risk of immediate danger. So what was legal earlier this year is now off limits. What would have been legal before that now, because of this ruling, is not legal?
Well, actually, Mr. Armstrong's very situation was legal before. It's not legal now.
In the words of an officer, used to be.
If you're justified in tackling that person, then you can use a taser, but we no longer do that.
For example, yanking an arm away from an officer, refusing to end a phone call when an officer asks, or even running away is not enough risk to use a taser. So what does this mean for the officer? That's what the North Carolina Justice Academy wants to know. In their memo, they write several concerns. First, that the decision doesn't tell them what kind of force is justified, and that it encourages officers to go hands-on with the mentally ill and other resisting subjects. If you are watching a person standing outside of a car on the side of a road, being placed under arrest, and then takes off running, under this ruling, would it be legal or illegal to tase them?
And that would totally depend on the circumstances.
And that's the problem. It's vague, or even worse, dangerous, according to one judge on the panel. In his opinion, he writes, delivering vague proclamations about do's and don'ts runs the risk of incentivizing officers to take no action, and in doing so, leave individuals and their prospective victims to their unhappy fates. How do you define immediate danger?
You're going to have to take the totality of the circumstances of what's going on.
Jason Feemster is a sergeant with the Aiken County Sheriff's Office. He says their taser policy was already strict, so this ruling doesn't change much. But this is how they decide when to use one.
The force we use is enough to be one above the force that's being brought to us as far as the resistance level.
The policy is similar in North Augusta. This is their old taser policy. This one is new. Only one line changed. Whereas before it could be used for, quote, controlling combative or resistive subjects, the new policy now includes those 3 important words: immediate safety risk.
Most people don't like change, but in order to be successful in this career, you constantly got to be up to speed and you've got to stay fluid.
Change that comes too late for some families.
The law changed, and wherein it was not enough to help Mr. Armstrong, hopefully it's enough to help the next person.
Even Taser International is tweaking their training recommendations that many departments rely on as a guide, since videos like this have now come into question. Or this one. This is one of the videos you can download with the training materials. We reached out to the company for comment but have not heard back. But this ruling may not be the end of the story. Taser International and the defendants asked for the case to be reheard because of the limitations it places on the taser. That was denied. But if the legal battle keeps going, it could make its way up to the Supreme Court. And by the way, none of the officers were ever charged in this case. The court said they had qualified immunity since they believed what they were doing was right.